Hey folks, welcome back to another exciting episode of Cast's IGTV. My name is Tiernan Hebron. I am a regular contributor for Cast, sex educator, soon to be grad student. And today I'm going to be continuing on with my series about vulvas, vaginas, and female reproductive organs. Now, if you didn't catch my last episode, I would head over to Cast's IGTV and check it out because we talk about basic anatomy of the vulva, which is very, very important. But today is a different day. Today we are going to talk about menstruation. The vulva was all about, kind of the outside, while menstruation has mainly to do with the inside organs. Now, as someone who gets pretty painful periods, I'm not exactly quick to sing its praises. Honestly, it can fall in a hole. But I do have to give credit to the human body. It is truly an amazing thing. It is regulating and maintaining and controlling all these different systems and processes and cycles that in our body that are necessary for us to keep on living. And we don't even know about it, like all the time. And for people with the female reproductive system or female reproductive organs, one of those processes or cycles that the body is regulating at all times is the menstrual cycle. Now, as I said earlier, it is the female reproductive system. Anyone who has female reproductive organs gets their period. Please notice that I'm saying people with female reproductive organs and not women. Because not everyone who has these female reproductive organs like the ovaries, the fallopian tubes, the uterus, the vagina, the vulva, not all people who have those organs identify as a woman. Because as we all hopefully know, gender and biological sex are two separate things, meaning that there are trans men and there are genderqueer people and there are non-binary people and intersex people who all get their periods, but they are frequently left out of the conversation, which tends to lead to more stigma and makes it harder for these people to access period products. So it's really important to note that people who get their periods are not all women. They are people with the female reproductive system, which we're going to talk about right now. Okay, so as I was saying, the menstrual cycle is the body's way of preparing for pregnancy over and over again. Because, as you hopefully know, people with female reproductive organs or the female reproductive system have the ability to get pregnant. They have the ability to develop a fetus in their uterus right here, which can in fact turn into a small human. But before any of that can happen, each of the bodies need to do their own prep work, if you will. So let's get into it, shall we? Sorry, I need to find my pen. So let's talk about eggs. The eggs are stored, there are thousands of microscopic eggs, and they are all stored right here in the ovaries. Remember, ova means egg, so eggs stored in ovaries. Got it? Good? Done. Okay, so when the time comes, the ovaries send hormones back and forth between the brain. Back and forth, back and forth. Now, also for those who don't know, hormones are little chemical messengers in the body which tell different organs or processes in the body to start or to stop. So, like I said, when the time comes, hormones are sent back and forth from the ovaries to the brain. The brain essentially tells the ovaries to start maturing some of the eggs that it has for that cycle. So these little babies are starting to grow. They're starting to come into being, preparing to potentially be fertilized. Now, also during this time, the uterus, which once again, that is where the fetus will develop should an egg become fertilized, is also sending hormones back and forth to the brain. I don't even know if you can see my little dots and my arrows, but up and back. And the brain is telling the uterus to start thickening up the lining, which is called the endometrium. You don't really need to know that, but who doesn't love a good factoid here and there? So this is thickening up with blood and tissue, essentially creating a nice little comfy nest for a potential pregnancy. So those two things are kind of happening simultaneously, and they are part of the overall menstrual cycle. Now, when the eggs, or an egg, is all grown up, the body will tell it to release itself down the fallopian tubes. It usually takes a couple of days. It just kind of like implants itself into the endometrium, the lining of the uterus, and it just like chills there, just like hoping and praying to be fertilized. It just really wants a sperm to break through its walls and turn it into a potential human, regardless of whether this human wants it to. That's what the body does. However, if the egg is not fertilized like 9 to 11 days after it was released from the ovaries, then it starts to break down. And as it is breaking down, it tells the endometrium, the built-up lining, you know, the little nest that was being prepared for potential fertilization, also begins to break down and shed and slough off the walls. And the uterus, in all her infinite glory, starts contracting to help, you know, the walls slough off easier. And that contracting is what you feel when you have cramps. And it also is like a simulation of what the body goes through during pregnancy and childbirth, right? The contracting is a way, almost like, it's like an introductory class into childbirth. And that's what, you know, people are feeling when they have cramps. So, this blood and the, you know, dissolved egg falls down through the cervix, out the vagina, and voila, that is your period. Now this is also why when people are pregnant, they don't get their period, because the nest and the egg had to stay in place. So there you have it, that's your period. However, that is like all the inner workings, you know, that's what's going on inside the body. But those of us on the outside of our bodies have to deal with like the repercussions of our shedding uterus, aka we have to deal with like the blood that comes out of our body, which is thick sometimes because it's like tissue, right? So let's talk about managing your period. There are so many different products available to help, you know, soak up the blood essentially. We have things like pads. Pads are for, you know, people who are fairly new to the period game. They are essentially just a pad, and it's like sticky on the back, so it sticks to, you know, the bottom of your underwear, and it is all absorbent, and it like soaks up all that blood for you. I actually never used pads. They're not super comfortable. It kind of feels like you're wearing a diaper. However, they are good to start with because tampons, this is a light one for a light flow, which I don't use because it's like Niagara Falls in my pants. But there are all different sizes of tampons, and tampons are, I'll open it for you, for those of you who have never seen one before. Here we go. There's a, sorry with the lighting, it's hard to see. So there's a tampon, and the applicator, you like insert it into your vagina, and it's just like essentially white cotton, absorbent cotton that stays in there. The walls of the vagina hold it in place. It soaks up the blood, and the string hangs out the vaginal opening. So you need to pull it out every 8 hours or so because you obviously don't want to keep foreign objects in your body for too long. That's what leads to toxic shock syndrome. Those of you may have heard of it. It's just when bacteria is able to grow on a foreign object in the body, and it can be very dangerous and deadly. But I assure you that is very rare. Just remember to take tampons out of your body. Moving right along, there are also like other types of products that are now coming available to people who get their periods, and a lot of people prefer them actually because well, one, like I said, pads are fairly uncomfortable, and tampons can sometimes, like the cotton that goes into your body can be bleached, which like really isn't great to have bleach inside your body. There are plenty of organic and natural tampons and pads available, but there are also other options. There is something called Thinx underwear, and it's just like, it's hard to see on here, but it's super absorbent underwear made of special material that absorbs all the blood, and it's honestly so comfortable. You don't have to worry about it. I really like it for a particularly heavy day. There are also things like the menstrual cup, voila. And like you can see, it's just like a plastic cup, really. And you insert it into your body and it collects all the blood for you, and then you have this little guy to help pull it out again. And it's great because it's reusable. You just have to obviously wash it correctly. But a lot of people like that because, you know, pads and tampons are made of plastic, or the applicators are made of plastic, so it's not very sustainable or eco-friendly, and that's why menstrual cups or Thinx are a really great option because they're reusable. Now those are the only products that I have around the house to show you, but there's so many different types of products out there, so many different options for you. Everyone's period is going to be differently, so what they need to manage that period is also going to be different. Try things out. Experiment, find out what you like, because you're going to be menstruating until you hit menopause, which is usually in your late 50s. So you have like years to deal with blood coming out of your vaginal opening. So take some time to get to know the unique patterns of your own body and how to best manage this not all too fun process. Additionally, as I said earlier, the uterus is a muscle and it contracts to help the blood slough off, and that is very painful for some people, myself included. In fact, there was a study recently that said that cramps can be as painful as a heart attack. So please take period pain seriously. There are, of course, a lot of different, painkiller options like Advil, Tylenol, but sometimes that doesn't quite do it. So there are specialized pills like Midol, which is specifically for period pain. But for people like me, or for other, like I have a condition which causes painful periods. There are also people who have endometriosis. There are so many different issues related to having your period, which can cause the individual to be in a lot of pain. I have found personally that works for me is like CBD products or THC products. However, if that is not legal in your state, heating pads are also great to relax the muscles. But like I said, it is different for everyone, and you just need to find what works for you. I hope anyone out there who is struggling with having a period or feeling the intense stigma or shame that is for some reason placed on our bodies for doing what they do naturally, you are not alone, okay? There are, at any given time, 800 million people globally on their period. 800 million! So that means there are probably more people on their period than there are people not on their period. So those of you who don't get your period, please do something. Do something to help out with the 800 million people currently in your world that are going through this natural body process but are experiencing marginalization and discrimination because of it. You can donate to different organizations. I'll put resources up at the end of this video. Just make sure that you're there for the loved ones in your life who are having your period. Ask them what you can do. Take their pain seriously. Take your turn buying tampons or pads or whatever. It shouldn't just be their responsibility. It's all of our responsibility. Yeah, so